This is Media Philosophy, exploring the deeper side of generations, Gen Z, Gen A, Boomers, Millennials, Gen X, all that. This is really a PSA to talk about how dumb and made up these generations are and the origins of these generations. They're all developed by marketers. Really, the only reason the term Millennial, Gen Z, Boomer exists is because a bunch of marketers needed to figure out a way to categorize people, and the easiest way to do that was just based on arbitrary age. So they use, millennials as a market. So they created, 1985 to 1997, whatever the range is, I don't know. And because it's all arbitrary, it's just insane that people are really using these divides as if they're like some scientific genus. Oh, this is a Gen Z, I don't know Latin enough to make a joke about genus. But you get what I'm trying to say, is people take these things like the truth, like some God, like the gospel truth, when really they're just meant to figure out ways to sell things to us. Because there's not much you can really, assert based on just someone's age, just knowing somebody is born in 1995. The only thing really you can tell by someone's age is probably what, TV shows they like, Your average millennial is going to like, SpongeBob more than your average Gen Xer, okay? I think that's the only thing we can really take from these generational divides and whatnot is maybe what media they watch. And maybe that's why marketers use it, because they know if millennials watch SpongeBob, they can push, nostalgia bait on them. I don't get it. But it's just really sad to see so much hate all around, because if you really wanted to classify people, if to really try to figure out, like some sort of common thread, because it doesn't matter. You can look at 1,000 Gen Z individuals, and they're all going to be different. They're all going to have their own jobs. They're going to have their own, histories. They're going to have their own income levels. And I would say those things like income level, that's like the real classification, I would say, that you can start to figure out people a little bit more. Just because someone is born in 1992 doesn't mean you can make sweeping generalizations against them. Whereas if somebody is making, $30,000 a year, you can start to kind of piece together some things about them. Maybe their eating habits, what stores they shop at, what they can afford, where they can go to vacation and things like that. So I just think it's so funny that the internet has just embraced the idea of age-based generation divide so with open arms. But you know what? I gotta try to tell myself, I gotta try to remember that things online are not necessarily real, that especially in this day and age of bots, it just seems like, the divisiveness rises to the top. So I would hope that actually the vast, vast, vast majority of people aren't just cat tax, by the way. I would hope that the vast majority of people aren't, hating on boomers just because, some people who are, 65 and older, 70 and older, grew up in a time post-World War II where they were able to just, walk into a job and have a steady employment for the rest of their life. Why? We can't hate on people for that. And I get that, there might be some arguments that voting patterns brought us to where we are now, but I don't know. It's just hard for me to think that, back in whatever age they start. I guess people really blame the boomers for, Reagan, but even that was probably, the people before them. It's just hard for me to just blame an entire generation on, because one person was president, especially when they weren't the only people that voted that guy in. So it really makes me interested and kind of scared how, this hate is just going to keep evolving. I wonder if the term boomer actually never goes away. I wonder if it's just like anybody over the age of like 65, they're just going to become the boomers. Like Gen X is just going to become boomers, and then millennials are just going to become boomers, and then Gen Z are just going to become boomers. We'll keep going down the letters, alpha, beta. I don't even know what C is. God, I'm so uneducated. But regardless, I just feel like I need to speak up against all this hate, because we're all gonna age. We're all going to be, the older generations and whatnot, and it's just kind of sad, because you'll even see things like the boomers now have like some of the highest risk factors for like homelessness and whatnot. And you just see people like online celebrating that. And it just really breaks my heart that it's so easy to dehumanize people on the internet, and then, just find these labels to enable the dehumanization. You call someone a boomer, and it completely rids them of all, personality, all individuality, just basically just rids them of the humanity. It casts the entire sins of, I guess, humanity on a single person, a single generation. Because again, I know I'm gonna have more in common with like a Gen X or a boomer who's like maybe lower middle class than I'm gonna have with like a millennial who's, I don't know, hanging out at Mar-a-Lago right now, making millions of dollars, trading on Wall Street and whatnot. Just because I was born the same year as, I don't know, Derek, the president of some, I don't know, company or whatever, doesn't mean like we have things in common. Look at my hair. This is the first time I've wore a collared shirt in weeks, and it's just because that was what was on top of the clean laundry pile. I mean, God, where's my cat? Where's my favorite cat sweatshirt? It's not around here right now. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna find more in common with the people who are wearing, pajama bottoms out and about, who are, younger than me, older than me, doesn't matter. So we gotta stop just using age as a justification for either shutting someone off or shutting them down or just discrediting them or hating on them. There's a lot of reasons to dislike somebody. There's a lot of things you can find to dislike somebody. And if you're just going to use age, that's just being lazy, okay? Actually talk to someone first, have a conversation, and then find out why you don't like someone. Don't just call them, just don't write them off because they're a boomer. And so just remember, when you hear these phrases online, it's just people in some marketing firm who are just kind of arbitrarily creating timelines for these people so they can categorize them and just try to understand how to sell things to them. All right, that's the ultimate. That's the secret behind the curtain. That there we go. We're at we're at the land of Oz, and we just peek behind the curtain. It's not some law. It's just business. This is Media Philosophy, exploring the deeper side of entertainment.